Hey, what's really going on? Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. Today, going to be taking a look at XRP against USDT. Going to be taking a look at some of these key technical aspects of price action moving forward. Going to be assessing some of the pivotal areas of support and resistance I believe we're going to be interacting with in the very near future here, following this very aggressive break downward from like almost $2.70 kind of thing. We plummeted all the way down to swing lows of 64 cents. Now consolidating between kind of like 79 and $1.06. Are you bullish? Are you bearish? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you think prices will return to above $1, and we're going to see that multi-dollar XRP in the kind of very near future here? Or are you bearish and you think some more downside is pending interaction below below 75 cents, perhaps like we see 50 cents in these lower levels that we came from? Let me know in the comments down below your perspective, kind of moving forward, and what you're doing with your XRP if you have one. Now, kind of jumping right into it, there is sort of a lot of speculation going on with XRP. There's plenty of different technicals and fundamentals coming into play when assessing kind of the long term of XRP. In my opinion, the uptrend does seem to be rather bullish. If we can stay realistically, I have a very bearish low of like 62 cents ultimately. If we are so bearish enough to come down to that level, we could still maintain bullish in the long term, even if we start consolidating along there. Although I suspect perhaps a more bullish bearish target would be like 72 cents, with like more bullishly would be like 79 cents if we kind of start to hold there, and then we can kind of interact with that dollar range to above $1 again. Ultimately, I wouldn't consider a reversal pending until we start interacting with kind of like swing highs around like $1.80, $1.90 kind of thing. If that becomes significant resistance moving forward, then we could expect some more kind of prolonged downside. But ultimately, this does just seem like a lower phase of accumulation, perhaps similar to price action relative to this kind of huge sideways for over 130 days, realistically, with lows of like 18 cents and highs of like kind of like 75. Realistically, we could have a rinse and repeat of that kind of similar price action with like 40 days of sideways in an upper range. Then we could have tens of days of sideways in a lower range. Say we have another say we have like a month in this range. We've already been in this range for like 2 weeks. Say we stay in this range for what leads to a month, and then say perhaps we come back up and we trade in this like upper range here between $1.38 to $1.15 for a period of days, tens of days to perhaps a month, before we can kind of break highs and set some sort of higher highs again and interact with those kind of like upper multi-dollar levels. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all if price action were to unfold in such a way that looked kind of similar, sort of like that moving forward. Ultimately, that would still be bullish long term, in my opinion, and that would like very much mimic lower price action, similar to down here, just above significant support, which was resistance during all of this crazy accumulation, upper and downward kind of phases of volatility. We had significant kind of support and resistance between 72 and 79 cents. So that's going to be our kind of pivotal level moving forward to determine the uptrend long term, in my opinion. Now, what we consider EngineeringRobo, along with the Fibba Zucchini lines of Illuminatis, Lamborghinis, bikinis, and martinis, we see new perspective come into play when we assess the fear and greed index kind of up here, the FOMO zone interaction up in there kind of between $1.55 to kind of $1.96. That was a very hard rejection. That sent us down to $1 again. We rallied, printed some lower highs. Resistance was found below the kind of FOMO zone there, and ultimately momentum shifted downward, and we interacted now with this 200 daily moving average. And so ultimately that does seem still bullish long term, in my opinion, as we do have the sell for present, suggesting some short term kind of like bearish accumulation. I believe some sideways is pending for a period of time before EngineeringRobo before we can be more short-term bullish. EngineeringRobo is going to have to start showing some buy signals again, but until then, we have that sell for and a hell present since the end of April of this year, and so ultimately we could see perhaps a few weeks to that kind of like full month of sideways before we can kind of break what appears to be significant local resistance at that 0.5 Fibonacci level at $1.03. A more bullish target would be more bullish kind of low would be 81 cents, would be a higher low relative to 79. That would be a more significant kind of bounce target. That could suggest that we could interact with that 0.5 again, and we could have enough momentum to kind of plow through it and kind of bounce between $1.06, $1.15, and then perhaps some more significant resistance around that 0.618 line at $1.25. 0.786 line is at $1.57. It's going to be up, I bet you, significant kind of resistance moving forward before we can interact with swing highs around $2. So we do have a lot of resistance ahead moving forward, which is why we could, enter a kind of like a multi-stage upper, lower, and middle phase of accumulation, similar to this kind of previous zone back, kind of like like end of kind of last year to kind of beginning middle of this year. If you consider the kind of fear and greed index here, it's kind of more for a longer term kind of hold, mid to longer term hold. So you're accumulating in the kind of fear zone, you're holding through all the crazy sideways rather than trading support and resistance style. So you're accumulating at 26 cents. To our first interaction with the FOMO zone, you made over 560% in 77 days, like less than 3 months. And so that's more of like a mid to longer term hold rather than a trade during all the volatility and sideways. Ultimately, I believe we're still bullish long term above that 200 daily moving average. Interaction with it and price action above it is going to be, still long term bullish and healthy for the uptrend. Some more sideways is going to be healthy for the uptrend. And XRP does have, a tendency to take its time before breaking its kind of like significant higher highs. And so ultimately, I do see some significant resistance kind of moving forward. When we consider XRP against the price of Bitcoin, we can see a new perspective come into play here. When we consider these, this kind of significant range, I believe we're going to be bouncing up and down between, at 2262 Satoshi and 2893 Satoshi is going to be significant support and resistance, I believe, moving forward. Ultimately, a more bearish target is going to be 1525 Satoshi. Some Fibonacci lines are going to show some more local, kind of like bearish targets that we could interact with. I believe that are going to be more bullish than my support found at 1532. Ultimately, there's going to be significant resistance, though, around 34.57 and 37.82. That's going to be significant resistance moving forward that I believe we're going to have to gain a lot of momentum to kind of make our way through. We could have to support and resistance style step our way kind of through these levels before kind of breaking them rather than kind of attacking them vertically. So when we consider EngineeringRobo along with the Fibonacci Illuminati lines, we can see new perspective come into play. The 0.382 Fibonacci line correlating with my 2891 Satoshi level resistance. 2872 is going to be significant resistance as well. So I do believe that's going to be some significant kind of local kind of selling target that's going to have a lot of sell pressure as we approach. I believe price action is going to have to break and then reconfirm that level as support before moving forward. The 0.236 just below my kind of upper slapping zone there is going to be significant resistance just kind of below that kind of level at 3405 Satoshi. The 0.5 Fibonacci line is going to be a more kind of bullish kind of support level that we can hold, which will be a higher low relative to my support level around 2267 Satoshi. I personally believe we could have interactions with that that support level, as that would still be a higher low relative to interaction with the 0.618 line at 2013 Satoshi. And so we do have plenty of room for some kind of continued downside against the price of Bitcoin. With that sell for present, we could have some short-term kind of bearish price action and some moves kind of downward in my opinion. But we do have price action above the 200 daily along with the cloud buy present, and so that does give some longevity to the uptrend. And we could maintain bullish against the price of Bitcoin in the long term, but in the short term, we could very well have some more downside, and these lower levels could present themselves in the kind of very near future here. We could be very, very more bullish if we hold that 0.5 Fibonacci line against the price of Bitcoin, but ultimately, I suspect interaction with 2269 and perhaps even that 0.618 ultimately. When we consider Bitcoin itself, we can see kind of what's really going on. How is this correction playing out? We have interaction toward that 0.5 Fibonacci line. This consolidation pattern does seem to be making its way downward, in my opinion. And so we could ultimately find support below that level to my more significant support line around 32K. If we were to hold that level, that would be a kind of rather significant bottom, in my opinion. and that would be, kind of one of your sort of like last buying opportunities. Ultimately, we could fail to hold that if this rejection does continue to play out, as the technicals and the fear, uncertainty, and doubt are putting a lot of sell pressure at these levels, and we could very well aggressively crash into the perhaps 20K ranges with lows of 27,000 at the 0.382 Fibonacci level. Like I said, a more bullish bottom would be 32K. Ultimately, that would be a nice bottom to hold to move forward, but momentum could bring us through to that 27K kind of level. 0.618 Fibonacci line at 41,500 still. That's going to be significant resistance just under that 200 daily moving average. There's going to be plenty of sell pressure. We've come up to it, printed several lower highs, price action trading in this, what appears to be symmetrical-esque pattern. And so ultimately, a breakout is pending. We could very well break downward and interact with that 32K level. And then, price action will have to figure itself out. Or we could find support along 34K, that 0.5 line, and make our way up to perhaps 37K to 39K. But ultimately, if we fail to break realistically significant resistance around 41K, we could very well make our way back up to 41K and find ourselves at significant resistance that brings us all the way back down to 34K again. And so ultimately, I believe this recovery is going to have to take a few weeks to play out, and some lower levels of accumulation are going to need to present themselves before the uptrend can continue moving forward, as there's going to be very significant sell pressure under the 200 daily moving average. Thank you for hearing my analysis. Try EngineeringRobo free with a link in the description. Subscribe here on YouTube. Check out all the other social media down below. Thank you for tuning in, and tune in for the next one.